everybody to episode 4 of the Weird Gears interview series by the Uddering Engineers, which is a podcast by the Engineering Student Society of the University of Calgary. Today, we have an awesome guest here. His name is Samson. Now, Samson, like us, is on ESS. He's the VP Operations, and I'll let him introduce himself a bit further.
Sweet. So, hey, everyone. Thank you again for inviting me to this podcast. So, like Eric said, I am VP Operations for the Engineering Student Society, and I manage the day-to-day operations of the Student Society. So normally, if we weren't in quarantine mode, it would be running our office. So we have an office that's pretty cool where we advertise all our events and where, we sell academic material as well as merchandise. And before I make this into a plug, definitely do come check it out. Unfortunately, it is going to be closed for at least fall semester. But yeah, it's a really great place to meet people, learn about our things, apply for applications, and, get involved with an ESS.
For sure. And in the spirit of how we've started a lot of these interviews, how did you get involved with ESS? Why did you take this route and this position?
Oh, okay. So I usually have two stories. I guess I'll be honest with. So when I was in orientation, I had an orientation leader. His name's Ryan, and of course orientation leaders were all about school spirit. And what really impressed me was, the immense, school spirit that came with Schulich. Because he had a Schulich scarf with patches on it. I don't know. I just looked at his scarf and, the patches were really funny and, they all had funny jokes. I remember seeing, a little patch that had, a little TI-84 calculator, that said, send help. And I just thought it was the funniest thing ever. Coming out of high school, we all used those TI-84 calculators. And that's how I got involved. I asked him, how do I get patches? And he told me to, join ESS and to apply as a first-year rep, and that I'd have a good chance to going to a conference where I could trade patches. So that's my kind of patch-motivated reason. I guess another reason was I really enjoyed student government, so I don't want to say it was the only reason. I did do a bit of student government back in high school, so I was really interested in contributing to student government, and especially after seeing all the school spirit that our school provides, or has. I really wanted to get involved, so that's how I got started.
So I think some of the critics out there would say, including me, Schulich has spirit? What are you talking about? I haven't seen any of this spirit you speak of. So what did you see? What engaged that that spirit in you to get involved and actually see all of these things happening aside from the patches?
I think, like you said, it's a bit hard to see during the year, just because, everyone's busy with engineering work and, classes. But especially during orientation week, when you saw all the departments and when you saw all the, orientation leaders all wearing scarves and, especially when we did the cheer as well, the we are, which I don't want to spoil in case anyone hasn't done orientation. But yeah, I feel like just looking at it, I definitely did see a big student culture potential for it, and yeah, that's essentially why I got in to ESS.
Awesome. And how did you? Well, I guess what was your first position on ESS then?
So like I said, I applied for first year rep. So every year we get it used to be 6 back in my year, but we made it to 8 because it made no sense because there's 4 blocks and I don't know why 6. It didn't make any sense at all. Why you only got apparently the rationale behind it was because each first year rep would have a different position on the first year council or first year reps, but it just ended up being all the first year reps had the same role. So we changed it to 8 last year. And yeah, you can apply and get involved, which is what I did. And yeah, it's meant to get some first years involved so they further get involved with commissioner roles and VP roles. So the year after I ran for VP operations, I completed that. And then I wanted to run for VP again, but I didn't have too much of an idea what I wanted to do. So out of fashion for doing the same thing over and over again, I applied for VP operations again. I ran for VP operations again and I won. So I am VP operations for my second year.
Any, I guess, future aspirations with ESS? You want to keep going with it? Are you aiming for that head honcho position at some point?
Oh yeah, for sure. So definitely, I guess, I don't want to say it was the first thing or the only reason I'm staying on ESS. I think I would have stayed on ESS regardless. But I think, with all the time and for all my experience on ESS, I really do believe that ESS can make, I mean, it already is making a huge difference on the engineering students, but I feel like, yeah, every year we continue to add on to the students' experiences, and I'd really want to be a part of that. So, yeah, I definitely do plan on running for president once I come back from my internship year, if I get on internship. So that's my plans.
Well, listeners, this is also another exclusive to the podcast. If you see Samson running for any election in the future, you know who to vote for.
That's I don't know if that goes against pre-campaigning rules, but
not trying to force anybody into this. It's
You're
up to
not
you.
campaigning. You're just showing your intention of one. You're just showcasing your dream. I guess back to the VP operations stuff. Like, what are some cool initiatives you're kind of putting forward as VP Ops?
So some initiatives that I started last year. So this was kind of so in my first year, as you know, Jenny wanted to sell noodles and Cliff Bars. And I really loved the idea because yeah, for those who haven't been to the actual campus, engineering building is quite far from any place of food. And I know that some people might say, oh, it's literally just a walk to Good Earth Cafe, or it's literally just a walk to Mac Hall. But like, after a long day of classes, or in between classes, people get lazy, including me, and we really don't want to walk to places. As well as sometimes the food is kind of overpriced. So our initiative was to essentially add some more items into our food store. And I'm not sure if you guys have seen it just because you guys were on internship, but we added some few more items. So these items are priced just above at cost to make sure that students are getting the best price possible. But anything above at cost is just used to put back into the program. So we sell things like Pop-Tarts, candy bars, candy. We were hoping to get a deal to sell some drinks. And we're still working on that. I guess that kind of got cut off because of quarantine. But yeah, Pop-Tarts were definitely very popular, and I guess the main motivation is just to get food into the engineering student body, because we want cheap, affordable food, and it may be a bit of junk food, but sometimes you just need sugar to keep you going through the day. And I do encourage people to eat healthy, like, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you just need a snack to keep you going between a class. That's my excuse, at least. It's a guilty pleasure. I know I would personally buy it too. And then some other initiatives. We started a calculator lend-out program, as well as a lab coat lend-out program, and as well as a charger lend-out program, which Barney from who was the SU Eng rep last year helped out. So the motivation behind that was, in my first year, I saw that there were a few first years who they went into one of the finals without a calculator because they forgot a calculator. And this was like the statics final, where you had to do all calculations. So my motivation was I didn't want to see any students go through that. And obviously you can't ask a friend to borrow a calculator because chances are your friends either have an exam or they're doing the same exam as you during exam season. So that's why we implemented that program, as well as lab coats too. I remember that motivation. I came to a lab and I totally forgot I was wearing shorts. And it kind of was a bad experience. I did figure it out. I had to borrow a pair of pants, which is kind of weird. But, I didn't want to get kicked out of the lab. And I'm sure most people have had that experience where, they accidentally wear sandals to a lab. And, they're just freaking out and, trying to find a friend that's willing to lend them clothes. So that was the kind of the motivation. And then lastly, yeah, like I said, with the charging cable, we got some charging cables. And yeah, just to help students out because, not everyone carries charging cables. And we don't want students, to have their phones uncharged because, we're in such a technological society where we have to check our phones and emails and everything. So
Yeah, I was on I was on campus, this last semester, and that food was a lifesaver, especially when like the weather gets to like -40 and you're just dreading any sort of walk outside. Like, any food, please just give me anything that doesn't let me go outside.
Yeah, like I know most people, like when I start ranting about it, they're just like, oh, Samson, stop being lazy and just walk. But like when it's like freezing outside and like I don't have any boots or I'm too lazy to put on my winter coat. Like, I know that's very, very lazy, but like, I don't know. I guess it's just being tired from doing classes and, just overall, I just want sugar in my system to just keep me going.
And providing food to other people is a grind. So you get tired and you want food. It makes sense. It's
quite the feedback loop.
Yeah. So I guess aside from the operations role, what other stuff do you like to do? What other things do you like to do aside from ESS, I guess?
So I guess you guys probably saw it, but I'm kind of an addict for 3D printing. Um, I know this totally started because of the engineering makerspace. So I think it was in my first year when the school purchased. I think they purchased 30 3D printers for the makerspace. And I wanted to get into 3D printing because I watched this one YouTube channel where they were 3D printing all these cool things. And I realized I just added it together. I'm at a university that has 3D printers, and I've seen this before in videos. So I really wanted to try it for myself. And I kind of got really hooked onto it. Just the concept of being able to, physically make something out of a model. Like I'm sure, yeah, Eric and Shivek, you've probably seen my kind of, I don't know. I was just known in first year as the person who kept on 3D printing things. Like I know people would come to me to get stuff 3D printed or for advice. So it's kind of a nut for 3D printing there.
So how's that evolved? Do you have your own now and everything?
Yeah, with quarantine, actually, what ended up happening was I was planning to get a 3D printer anyways. But when quarantine first hit, I realized that it was going to be a long time. Like, I just predicted that it was going to be a very long time to myself, and that I probably wouldn't be able to go to school to 3D print anything. So I made up the decision. I saved up some money, and I got a 3D printer. Uh, yeah, I was kind of a bit addicted. So, having my own 3D printer, I've printed a lot of things since quarantine, and it has definitely helped me, um, grind through the time.
Awesome. Do you like post any of your stuff about your 3D printing, or like do you teach people or tutor people or anything like that?
I used to. So, back in first year, I would post them on my Instagram, and that's kind of where people found out that I was kind of a crazy nut for 3D printing. So I'd get a lot of messages on Instagram saying, "Hey, can I have this?" or "Hey, can you help me print this?" or I guess I have a story about how 3D printing can be used for good. But yeah, I was definitely posting a lot, but I've stopped just generally posting on all social media. So I think that's the only reason why. But I occasionally show my friends my 3D prints and all that. I've been trying to take time lapses, but just been trying to figure out camera settings and all that.
I'm very curious about that. How can 3D printing be used for good?
So so I had someone approach me, and essentially in a nutshell, what happened was they had a chess set that meant a lot to them in their family. Family heirlooms. They're in the family for a few generations. So they had this chess set that meant a lot to one of my friends' parents. And in a nutshell, what ended up happening was for some reason they ended up losing one of the pieces, one of the chess pieces. So as you know, because I was posting so much about 3D printing, they came and approached me and asked me if I could help them 3D print a replica part for that one chess piece. And it would mean a lot, and as a gift for their parent for their, I believe it was either their, I think it was for their birthday, because the chess set meant a lot to them. So yeah, I definitely offered to help because it was a great way to show off what 3D printing can do. And it honestly didn't take too much time either. Like the way 3D printing has come, it's gone a far way. So in a nutshell, we just we catted the chess piece, or we tried our best to replicate it. It was a bit of a challenge, just exactly replicating it. And yeah, when you 3D print, you won't get exact tolerances. But after trying a bit, making a few CAD models and reprinting it, we got it pretty close to the actual thing. And we just added a layer of, I think it was nail polish to give it that sheen, because these were like very classic chess pieces that were opaque and shiny. But yeah, we made the piece, and apparently the feedback was that the parent really loved it. So yeah, that's just one of the examples I show about how 3D printing can really help with everyday things.
Damn, Samson. That's such a cool story. I didn't know that happened. But aside from this, like when you're 3D printing, do you like, how can somebody get started on 3D printing? I know for me, like you're a 3D printing guru, so I ask you like a bunch of questions, but if somebody wants to get started and they don't have a 3D printer, how can they practice, or like what do they do to get started?
So there's quite a few ways. I don't want to turn this into a 3D printing podcast. I already know I'm kind of a nut for it. So in a nutshell, as a student at the Schulich School of Engineering, which I guess is the majority of the audience for this podcast, we so graciously have a makerspace that was funded by the School of Engineering. So I'm really grateful for that. And they have quite a lot of printers. They have 30 printers. So they're used quite a lot. So for the engineering teams, for capstone projects, and for just personal use. So a great way to get started is once quarantine is over. They host a lot of 3D printing workshops. So once you get trained through Makerspace and you get your Makerspace training, you can take 3D printing workshops where someone from Makerspace will go over every step needed to get started with 3D printing. So that's one way, and that's a very special thing that we have at Schulich is how easy it is to get started with 3D printing, and then if you are super eager to get started with 3D printing during quarantine, 3D printers have come a long way to where they're affordable. Affordable in the sense that they're not what they used to be. So 3D printers used to be like a desktop 3D printer would cost you what, like $5,000, $4,000. It's kind of like back then when computers cost but due to some advances and some companies making innovations, you can get a really cheap 3D printer for like $200 to $300 depending on the deal. I know that the Ender 3 goes for $300. And you can find like lots and lots of resources online to get started with 3D printing. I'd say that 3D printing, one of the best things that it caused, that it makes people do, is because after a certain while, after printing people's models, you want to start making your own models, right? So I think a benefit of 3D printing, especially as an engineering student, is that in most cases, you'll want to learn how to model things. And because of that, you'll get into wanting to learn how to do either, CAD for engineering purposes or, just model making purposes. They're still both very important and very crucial skills to have. So I think that's what 3D printing can definitely help you with. Like, I know the other day I was building a table and I needed to make a bracket. So, I CAD'd this little bracket up in SolidWorks and then I printed it out. And it essentially connects two tables together. So I don't know, through 3D printing, I've been able to work a lot on, my mechanical design skills. So I don't want to say it, I don't want to plug it, but 3D printing's great. I urge everyone to try it out. This is just a giant ad. I swear I'm not sponsored.
Maybe you should be. Don't worry about doing like shameless plugs. Like that's our favorite thing to do here.
Go for it. We want you to talk about what you're interested in talking about. So whether it be 3D printing or here's the segue for all of our listeners, gaming, you can talk about whatever you're interested in.
Or any other clubs you might be, a part of or, the president of.
Oh, okay. This is a plug. So, do we want to talk about gaming or do we want to talk about my club?
Oh, whatever makes you happiest, man.
Oh, okay. So I guess shameless plug for my club. So I got involved with a club after my first year. The name used to be called Tesla, which is Technology, Engineering, Science, Leadership Activities. But funny story, we had to rename our group because people were mixing us with... Because obviously the club was made before, the Tesla blew up. So our name kind of didn't age well because a lot of people were getting us confused with, Elon Musk's company. Like, I mean, I wish Elon Musk would hire us, but it was a bit confusing. Like, funny story, one of our club members on LinkedIn, they put Tesla as in our club. And they told me that, actual Tesla engineers, because in LinkedIn, you can see that you can see who views your profiles. So he was telling me how actual Tesla engineers were looking up his profile because of that one tag for our club. And I know that might be a great perk to advertise to potential club members, but we decided that it'd probably be best to rebrand. So our club is now called AC Robotics, which stands for Alberta Collegiate Robotics. In a nutshell, we like doing a variety of things regarding robotics. Primarily, we were started out of an initiative through Scouts. It was started maybe 4 or 5 years ago by a group of Scouts who really wanted to see, that STEM outreach to post-secondary students. So that's why the creation of the club happened. Some of the events we do. So we've recently shifted more due to the pandemic. We've recently shifted more towards education and outreach for, certain robotic skills and all that. We believe, that they're great skills to have and that some people may be looking for them, but may not know where to find the resources. So my team is currently planning on hosting a variety of workshops. So we're going to be planning a bunch of workshops on robotics related concepts for anyone who's interested. We're targeting primarily for first years or for people who just want to, get started with something. So that's what we're currently working on. Otherwise, some other projects that we worked on in the past. So Beakerhead, as you know, is this giant science kind of festival that happens in Calgary. They used to have a catapult competition, and we used to participate, and we would make awesome catapults. But I guess due to low participation, they canceled that event, so we lost one of our main events that we did a lot. I know one year we did a go-kart. There was a go-kart challenge, and we built a go-kart, and it was pretty fascinating. The amount of current that we drew from the batteries was kind of high. Like we had fuses, don't worry, but it was interesting. It was interesting to build the go-kart. I don't know if Josh has ever told you about it, but yeah, we built this crazy go-kart. And then yeah, our biggest event is Robot in 3 days. So a big high school program that happens internationally. It's called the First Robotics Competition. It's a great program, that gets high school students passionate and engaged about STEM and robotics. And we really love to support that because a lot of us were students who did the program. And because of that, so they get a challenge every year. It's a new challenge. It's kind of like gamified robotics where, it's a game challenge, where they shoot balls, throw cubes into things. And it's like this giant scale thing. It isn't like a small scale little table thing. Like the field is pretty big. The robots are about the size of people. So it's a really big competition. There's over, I believe, there's over 4,000 teams around the world that are active. So they have 6 weeks to complete it. The challenge gets released in January. They have 6 weeks to complete it. As university students, we participate in something that was started down in the States called Robot in 3 days, where we take the same challenge when it's announced on game day, and we put together a robot in 3 days. So yeah, like a human-sized robot in 3 days. They don't work like humans. They run off wheels and all that, but it's quite a big feat because, we really don't get time to plan things, and, we're putting things together without having the full picture of things. So it's a really hectic experience. When things return back to normal, we do host it. I do encourage people to check it out. It's a really fun way to, learn a few basics about robotics. And then even if you just want something at the end to show off to your friends, family, potential employers. Yeah, I don't know. I really like robotics and mechatronics, and I'm hoping to go into that career. So that was my tangent.
All good. You mentioned, I guess, a lot about you're running seminars and what. So how can people find all of this?
So we're currently in the process of planning out the seminars, seeing if we can get guest speakers, seeing if we can figure out the schedule for it. We're hoping to collaborate with other clubs. So if any other clubs do feel passionate about, teaching STEM concepts that are related to robotics or just STEM in general, I definitely do feel free to reach out. But I think what we'll do is we'll definitely be advertising during Clubs Week, and as well as advertising through, the Eng Discord, and hopefully through the D2L page. So yeah, and if you want to check us out, AC Robotics.ca.
And what we'll do is we'll
make.
include the information on our description for the podcast, if that's okay, Samson.
Yeah, no worries. It's a free plug, so.
There you go. So yeah, we'll include that to make sure that you guys can come in contact and speak to Samson and see how you can get involved and learn about robotics.
I hope I was interesting enough. I always go, I don't know, I've said this a lot of times, so I have it, kind of phrased in the back of my head, like the pitch, which is why I was kind of ready. I swear I didn't plan for this. I just always have the pitch in the back of my head. I don't know. That's just something about me. I always have a pitch in the back of my head. Like, ever since high school, I'm just really good at keeping a pitch in my head for things.
That's all good. It's a skill, dude. And actually, that's one of the things I think Eric and I are learning as we're doing this podcast is how do we talk to people and get to these questions where we get to the pitch that person already has prepared. You know what I mean? The thing they're like super passionate about, because that's the thing you've prepared. You know what I mean? The thing you've said 100 times. So yeah, that's awesome. Well, super like excited to hear about that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of under the anxiety to stay interesting because, that's how you get views. But I hope I'm interesting enough for people to continue watching and subscribe to the podcast or however Spotify works.
Actually, I have another question for you, dude. What is your favorite patch?
Oh, that is a hard one because there's various there's like 3 categories of like why a patch means a lot to me. And I may be weird, like, it may be weird to think about why a grown adult is thinking about the value of, threads on a thing. But like I said, that's kind of how I got started with ESS and, just the Eng student community as a whole. So I guess I like to be symbolic sometimes and have, metaphoric meanings. So I think I've told people this, but, like, I have three characteristics for defining how much I want to patch. So the first thing is, I like collecting patches of just the engineering school, so I like the default patch. So often you'll see a lot of patches, it's just the school logo or the engineering school logo. So those are what I like. I want to ideally collect one of every engineering school. And then there's ones that I just like because they're really funny, or it's like an internal engineering joke. I have like tons of those, and I especially love the ones from Waterloo. But I'd have to say, like I mentioned before, I think my favorite one, hands down, is probably the TI-84 calculator patch that says "Send help." Just because I don't know, it kind of resonated with me because I had the exact same TI-80. Actually, it's a TI-83. My bad. It's a TI-83 that says "Send help," and I do have the patch on hand. Let me grab the patch on hand. So, for those who also don't know, I take it seriously with patches. So I have a briefcase to store all my patches.
Oh yes.
Quick plug. For anybody listening to us on any of the podcast streaming services, we're also on YouTube if you want to actually see the patches that Samson's talking about. So check us out.
But like in a nutshell, this was what got me started with patch trading. It's kind of like a little TI-84 that says "Send help." I just thought it was really funny. And if you guys ever need one, I have a stockpile. I kind of went crazy when I was at the University of Waterloo. I kind of annoyed the person who was at the store because I was just looking through the patches, crunching through all the math, seeing how much my, wallet would cry after purchasing all these patches. So
I'm just thinking here. I don't think I have that patch. I've always like envied it on people's like coveys and jackets and stuff.
well,
I might get that one.
if any of you need one, I can hook you up with one.
I mean, I also want to take the time to shout out another thing that ESS does with patches, the patch competition. Because that's, if you want to flex your creative muscles, ESS is running a patch competition. Samson's one of the people running it, so that you might be the next person that creates Samson's next favorite patch. Who knows?
You know what? That's the challenge now. The challenge is not creating the patch, creating Samson's next favorite patch. Good luck.
Yeah, if you can impress resident patch fanatic, then you've got it made.
Yeah, no, for sure. You don't need to have full graphic art skills. We have a service where we can turn, the concept into something that's digitally friendly to make into a patch. Like, honestly, you can come with a sketch of something if you have something really funny. But yeah, we love trading patches, and, the funnier patches we have, the better they go when you try to trade them with other universities.
For sure.
So definitely do.
Yeah, it's also such a good conversation starter when you're out to like some of these conferences and you're wearing your, the patches you've collected or found. It helps create that bond with some of the people that you meet up with.
Yeah, how many connections have you made, like, from other schools, Samson, just by looking for patches, and how many people do you stay in touch with just because you got into that part of Eng culture?
I mean, I feel like I have maybe like one or two friends who like we continue to like talk about every time. It's funny when we see each other at conferences. It definitely does make quite a lot of connections. Because signature thing I like to do is I like to put on my little cow hat. I don't know. I think it's more of a marketing strat because like people know if I have my cow hat on, I'm in it to trade patches. So it's kind of funny because at conferences, some people recognize me as the person who has the cow hat on. And like, it's a good way to show school spirit. It's also, low key a marketing strategy because, they know that I'm in it to trade patches. But yeah, I've definitely made a lot of connections. I remember messaging people occasionally for trading patches. There's actually a Facebook group for patch trading. So, normally I'd like to say that,
That's so cool.
Normally I'd like, yeah. Like, normally I like to say that it's better, just to go to conferences to trade patches because, you get to go to a conference, you get that experience of going out, to a different university or a different, province. But I guess with quarantine, I've kind of, been making it up by trading on the Facebook page. So there's I think there's over 500 engineering students. And, they all post pictures of the patches they have, and then people go around and, like, in the comments, they'll be like, oh, is this one still available? I'll trade you this for that. And etc. So
someday in Canada, just like the stock market, there's going to be a patch market with all the stats running all day. The founder is the send help patch.
There's some very rare ones that are, I guess, a product of a pretty far removed time that you can't find anymore. So those are the ones to look out for.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like,
Well, just looking at the time now, we've been speaking for some time, so I think I'm gonna wrap this interview up. So I want to say thank you to Samson for his interview with us, for being the fourth interview for the Weird Gears interview series under the Uddering Engineers podcast, created by the Engineering Student Society. So thanks, Samson, for joining us, and apologies for all the 3D printing questions.
oh,
But
no worries.
we appreciate you speaking about all your interests and passions, and it was honestly it was awesome to have you on the interviews. We're hoping to have you on again.
I hope I was interesting enough to retain attention. So if you've stayed back, if you stayed to this point on the podcast, thank you so much.
For sure. And if you want to find us on any social media, you can find us on Insta or Instagram under ufc.ess. It's the same for Facebook. And if you just search up University of Calgary Engineering Student Society, you should be able to find us. If you want to get on Discord, contact us over that, or search for us on Discord. You should be able to find us. And we're on YouTube, and you can watch Samson pull out some of these patches and get some more information and get involved in this.
Also, be sure to check out the ESS office once things return back to normal. That's where you can see some patches. We also sell patches, so if you want to decorate your scarf with patches, definitely, totally not as a plug, come down. Like, even if you just want to have a conversation about anything, I'll probably be in the office if it reopens. And, I just love having conversations with everyone. Literally, I can talk about anything for, days upon days. People know me as the person who goes on tangents all the time, so if you like conversations, definitely do come down, even if you just want to say hi.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode, everyone. And stay tuned. We'll be interviewing more people. If you have any feedback for us, let us know, and we will try to fix whatever we can and interview the people you want to hear.